Hello again, beautiful artists or soon to be artists. Welcome to another video. Today we're going to be starting from the start and learning how to begin your first watercolor painting. My name is Ellie and I share tips and tutorials to get you creating. Today I will be going through the process of painting a simple sunset silhouette, and I've attached the reference image in the description below so you can follow along. To begin your very first watercolor artwork, I will be discussing what to paint, where to find your reference images, mixing up your color, the colors to use, and understanding how watercolor works. This isn't a tutorial that teaches you every single watercolor technique, but instead a guide to help you get started and that's uncomplicated for you to follow. Please ensure you give this video a big thumbs up by hitting the like button and press subscribe with the notification bell on for more art tips and tutorials to come. It is really common if you are new to watercolors or painting in general that you don't know where to start and you might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed. You may be really inspired by other watercolor artists' artwork and may really want to start yourself, but you feel that there's so many obstacles in your way. These could be that you're unsure what to paint, you don't understand how the medium works, you don't know what materials to use, and you might feel that you have a lack of skill. You also might be afraid of what others might say or think about your artwork. The list goes on. So in order to tackle some of these issues, I will guide you through the basic details to help you get started. Follow along as I paint or just until you can get started. Begin by choosing a simple scene or landscape. So a silhouette with simple shapes is a great option. And do this by using a reference image. So if you don't take your own landscape photographs and don't have a great understanding of the principles or rules of image composition, I do recommend you download a copyright-free image to help you. I've linked some great websites in the description box below with free to download images. Simply just search for the image that you're after by writing keywords. This is because the layout of your image, as well as the clarity and detail in the photograph, will have a major effect on your artwork. So if you're using a poor quality image with not enough lighting and it's much too busy, then your painting's going to look too dark or have too much clutter as well. The same as if you're using an image that's much too overexposed. So for the equipment, to begin, you don't actually need much equipment at all. So of course you'll need watercolor paint, you'll need a piece of watercolor paper, a rag or tissue to wipe your brush. You'll need some water, so use 2 jars of water, one for cleaning and one to add water, a flat surface to paint on, some masking tape to keep your artwork still, and also it creates a nice border. And for your watercolor brushes, you need to have a round brush, a larger one and a smaller one for the smaller detail is useful, such as the grass here in the reference image. And also a short flat brush can assist you, but it's not always necessary to start with. So you want to keep your color palette simple and only use a few colors to begin. So for example, here I have my primary colors. So I've got blue, red and yellow. More specifically, I've got cobalt blue, cadmium red and cadmium yellow. I've also got here a secondary colour, dioxazine purple, and this is to get the really brightness that I need in the sunset. And I've also got white and black. So before beginning a full artwork, it's important that you learn and understand how the medium works, so how watercolour works. And use this painting as well as a practice for getting used to the medium. So remember that it doesn't need to turn out like a masterpiece, especially being your very first painting. So what I recommend is on a scrap piece of paper. It will help you if you do some practice to get used to painting with the medium before beginning. So try out by applying some water to your paper first and then adding some paint. What happens when you're adding in the paint to the water? Notice the way that your colours bleed together. This is called the wet and wet technique. Now try out by applying some paint to the dry paper. How does the paint look? This is the wet on dry technique. Now use some water to pull away the paint from the edges of your swatch. Wait until it dries, then apply another colour that's been diluted with water over the top. Now try the first technique, the wet and wet one, and add in some drops of one colour and then another to see how they bleed together. Then go back and add the wet on dry technique over your first swatch. Do you see how you're building up layers while experimenting at the same time? When testing out applying layers over the top of each other, make sure that you start with the lightest colour first. Now we're going to apply these techniques to create the silhouette artwork. I'm going to show you this process via the video component rather than talking a whole lot, but I will ensure to point out important cues throughout. So ensure that you watch through to pick up on the important parts and feel free to skip through to any parts once you have mastered them. So begin drawing a light outline of your landscape on your paper. Use a ruler to help you get the horizon line straight. The pencil that I have used here is a H pencil. And then apply a thin wash of water to your entire page using a larger brush if you have one. The small one will do fine, but just ensure that the water on your page doesn't dry too quickly. Paint over your first layer using a very thin watery wash. So begin with the lightest colour, here it's yellow, and use the wet and wet technique by applying the yellow over the top of the water on your page. So use a watered down version of the other colours on the other areas of your page, such as a blue purple wash for the dark clouds that we have here in the reference image. Begin to build up the colours in your sky, so this time adding less water into your paint and applying over your first layer once it's dried. Here we're using the wet and dry technique, so again apply your lightest colour first, so the yellow, then the orange, pink, red, purple, etc. So build your way up to the darkest colours. Notice that my brush strokes are smooth in the first couple of layers, then I start to move my brush in the motion of the particular shapes that I'm painting, so such as the clouds here. Use larger and smaller strokes depending on the size of the objects you have. Add in additional colours using less water for a stronger colour hue. This will make particular areas of your painting appear brighter and more vibrant. This is particularly important for a silhouette sunset as I'm painting here. Use your reference image as a guide so you have an idea of where certain colours lie within the scene. It helps to just take some time looking at the photograph. Throughout this process, remember that water is your friend. This is something that I've seen many beginners forget, especially not being used to how the medium works, so add in water and work in layers. Finish off your sky by lastly adding the smaller and darkest details over the top of your bright and coloured sky, such as the small clouds here. It helps to use a small brush if you have one, to get in those finer details. Personally, I also believe the better quality your brushes are, the easier they will be to work with. However, of course, there's that price tag added there. To begin the water, lay down a smooth layer of your brightest highlights for the reflections of the sky, and remember to use your lightest colours first. This is because watercolour is transparent, so you can't see the lighter colour hues over top of the darker ones. Quite different to paint that's opaque, such as acrylic or gouache. Just as you did for the sky, now add in the darker areas to the water, so moving your brush in the motion of the waves to replicate the motion in the lines. These are also smaller lines that you might like to apply with a smaller brush. And remember to use similar colours that you've mixed up for the sky. So you want the top half of your scene to be in sync with the bottom, so the colour scheme of the whole artwork is consistent. An optional extra is you might like to add an opaque white to the bright reflections in the water. So this is by using an acrylic white or a gouache. Just add a small amount of it to really bring out those highlights and water it down. This isn't necessary though if you don't have that opaque paint. You could also leave small sections in the area blank where there's no paint to replicate this. Lastly, paint in the darkest shadows or here the silhouette. So we've got the fence post with the grassy scrubs. Instead of using straight black, I've mixed my black with some of the dioxazine purple and also some brown. So just mix your primary colours to get brown. This stops the harshness from the black and it helps the subject matter connect with the colours used in the sunset, so by using the same dioxazine purple. Again, use a very small brush to flick your brush and create the fine pieces of grass and the seeds on the end. Once you're happy with the outcome, wait until your artwork is dried and carefully peel off the masking tape to reveal a beautiful first work of watercolour artwork. Well done! I really hope that you've enjoyed this process and learnt how to start, and that by taking it step by step, it really is simple and easy to create your very first watercolour artwork that you can be proud of. Be sure to like this video by pressing the thumbs up button and subscribe for more art content like this to come very soon. Also check out my Instagram page at the end of this video. Take care and I'll see you again very soon. Goodbye.